If you heard the introductory of this book, The Initiate, I mentioned something before I started reading. I had wanted to read perfectly, and then I just gave up on that thought and decided that it's going to be more like somebody reading to you in real life with the fumbles and stuttering and mispronunciations. And there I mispronounced that word. And just wanted to mention that. Okay, thanks. This is the Circuitous Journey, and it's in the book The Initiate. It's the second part. And this is the second part of Circuitous Journey, which is a weird word for me to say for some reason. Now Antonius possessed a friend who stood apart from his other companions, and whom he loved with a tender and steadfast devotion, seeing in him an example of learning, benevolence, and love. And he dwelt not far away in a cypress-girded villa by the sea, a man, it was said, of vast wealth, yet, unlike the wealthy, choosing to live a life of simplicity and moderation rather than extravagance and revelry. And Antonius thought within himself, I will repair to my friend Palamedes and ask his advice concerning the proposition of this mysterious old mendicant. For was it not he himself who lent me those books I have been so long studying, and therefore it is not unlikely he may be able to tell me which course to pursue, if indeed I should pursue any at all. And so immediately the thought had come into his mind. He set out along the white, shady road, overhung by the intertwining branches of the trees, planted like sentinels on either side, and suffering the deep blue of the cloudless sky to peep through the interstices of green leaves. And as he drew near the villa in which his friend lived, he could discern his tall and beautiful figure wandering to and fro on the terrace overlooking the calm, noiseless sea. And his head was bent down over a book, from which now and then he looked up, as if to inhale the scent of innumerable roses lifting their pale faces to the morning sun. Then, when he saw Antonius approaching, a smile of joyful welcome overspread his calm and classic countenance, and he went forward to meet him and give him a welcoming embrace, as was the custom in those long-ago days. And then Antonius told him for what purpose he had come, and of the mysterious old beggar who sought to persuade him to embark on this so strange and unfathomable a journey, begging him to extricate his bewildered mind from the dilemma of its inclination and doubt. And Palamedes looked at him with impenetrable smiling eyes and said, Are you not a little easy of credulity, O friend, seeing that a disreputable old beggar man coming to ask alms of you can so dexterously impress your mind with a project which may turn out to be nothing more than the very height of folly, so that your journey, if you decide to undertake it, may end only in disappointment and regret? Nevertheless, I also have heard that on yonder mountain summit is a monastery of mysterious monks, possessed of an incalculable treasure of knowledge, and that to reach them through that long and laborious ascent is to earn a reward outweighing all the material riches of the world. And yet to persuade you to go were a responsibility I am indeed loath to undertake, and to persuade you to remain were equally a responsibility, for who knows that the old mendicant may not be sincere in his gratitude and wish to do you good turn and let you profit by knowledge of which he is too old to avail himself on his own part? Moreover, even if your journey turn out to be in vain, you have little to keep you here in our world below, and therefore it seems no great harm could accrue one way or the other, for you are in the prime of life and have many years before you as yet, and on your return could still pursue your studies, aye, perhaps the better for your travel and adventure. Then said Antonius, Oh, you say well, but the conditions imposed are difficult of carrying out, and where am I to seek for a friend to bear me company on so strange and seemingly chimerical a quest? For apart from you, who are patient of my scheme by reason of your large-mindedness and learning, what other can I persuade to believe in my integrity, instead of regarding me as a madman or a fool? Then said Palamedes, Surely you flatter one who is unworthy of flattery, since my large-mindedness is nothing but a little worldly wisdom, realizing that no opportunity placed on the path of man is to be wholly disdained and let slip away. Nor is it so hard as you suppose to find a companion for your journey, for if a man is not forthcoming, perhaps a woman be found in his stead. Then replied Antonius, but what woman do I know other than those with whom I have amused myself in former days, and who are unsuited to my quest? For even if I could induce them to follow me, the wise ones would hardly receive them as pupils for a knowledge so high. Moreover, I have neglected them, and I've let them melt like dreams away from my life, forgetting almost their names, so that I could not find them now, even if I would. Then Palamedes looked at his friend with the gaze of a father, as he said, the seekers of wisdom do not disdain even their dreams, lest underlying their diaphanous texture there be some meaning of import and weight, and even should there be nothing, yet to essay their retention were an exercise for the memory not to be despised. For surely your own must be of the shortest if you cannot recall at least one of your many loves. Or surely you spoke without forethought, or are seeking an excuse to hide from me your disinclination. Your disinclination to take one of the weaker sex as your companion, lest she should prove a hindrance to you rather than a help. And then Antonius laughed a little shamefacedly and said, O reader of character, you have divined somewhat of the truth, for I fear to burden myself with a woman who may forever desire to repose or linger or turn back, being as whimsical and capricious as the breeze, and as lavish of her tears as a moisture-laden cloud of its rain at the change of the moon. But Palamedes answered him gravely and said, Yet are you not thus forgetting the condition imposed, and seeking to consider your own ease, avoiding the very first task you must undertake to achieve your reward? For verily, did not that old man tell you that selflessness alone could give you entry into the temple? And for that reason it was you should be accompanied by others, but not for the gratification of your own comfort, or to mitigate the irksomeness of your journey upon the long road. Nevertheless, take heed. I would not persuade you to go, as I would not dissuade you either. But if you are fain to try your fortune on the strength of the words of that old sage, then folly were it to try it half-heartedly, ignoring one portion of his so unequivocal directions, and only obeying the other instead, for it seems truly the portion you would discard has every whit as much value as the portion you would obey. Then Antonius smiled a little sadly and said, No doubt you are right in this case, as you have been to my knowledge in most others, for truly a thing that is worth doing in part is worth doing altogether. And although I will seek first for a man companion to go along with me, yet should I fail in this, I will do as you say and take a woman instead. And he hesitated for a moment, looking a trifle appealingly at his friend, and then added, Fain were it, I opine, to ask you to come with me yourself. And Palamedes laughed with kindly amusement and answered, Yes, I fear it were vain indeed. So then Antonius departed and went back to his home, steeping himself in his troubled reflections and trying to devise some plan for the search of a companion and some oratory to convince him, if he should find one, of the value of the quest. And he reflected for several hours until the twilight was beginning to settle upon his garden, and then set forth in the direction of the town, intending to visit many of his former comrades, though hopeful of little success for the object on which he was bent. And so, after going from one to the other, and receiving nothing but laughter and good-natured mockery for his pains, he was compelled to give up his search, which, as he correctly presaged, had come to naught. Then said he to himself, With the men I have utterly failed, as I expected, For after all, they only liked me for the good food and wine I lavished upon them in former days, and not for myself. Since when I asked of them aught in return, they one and all refused and laughed me to scorn, deeming me a fool. So now I will try with the women instead, for one at least loved me and vowed she would always love me, though I treated her badly, and turned my own life away from hers without further ado. So who knows but that she may love me still, and even if, chary of believing me the object I have in view, she may go with me because of love, if for nothing more. For what ties have courtesans to tether them to this place or that? And seeing I have money, and to spare for both of us, and many more, surely there can be few other obstacles in the way. So Antonius at length came to the house of one, Cinara, his former mistress, and to her he laid bare the project he had so close to his soul, while she on her part listened with wide open eyes, full of wonderment and also full of love which had never died. But as he was telling the tale, he noticed that she had aged, and much of her former beauty had faded away with the passage of years, and her body had grown thinner, and her eyes a little sunken with a weariness of soul which on one hand touched his heart with something of pity, and on the other caused him to shrink a little from her away. And he thought to himself as he looked at her and talked to her in the gloaming of the rushlight, "Truly I wish she seemed to love me a little less, for she will embarrass me with her devotion, and perhaps I shall need to feign which I no longer feel. And yet, if she loved me no more, certainly she would not do as I ask her, and come with me on my journey. Therefore, the importunity of her love I must accept as the price of her companionship, and so endure it as best I can." And then, when he had finished speaking and come to the end of his tale, she looked into his eyes and answered playfully, "O faithless yet beloved one, although thou hast left me these long years with never a message nor an inquiry after my welfare, and only now, when thou dost want something of me, seekest me at last, as who knows, a final resource, yet, because I still love thee, I will go along by thy side on this strange journey, being glad to have recovered thee when I thought thou was gone for evermore. For just as thou art enwearied by the riches, so am I wearied by my amours. And I would fain make an end to them all, and seek for something better on the roadway of life, and more so as my loves existed in name only, and not in truth, since, glimmering through every one of them, was thy imperishable image, and the undying memory of thee and thy love. And although I know full well thou dost care for me no longer, yet nevertheless I will companion thee faithfully, and I will ask nothing in return." So then Antonius rejoiced in his heart, saying to himself, "At last I have found someone to go with me on my way, and now my doubts are set at rest, and I can prepare for my journey without further ado." But to Cinara he said, "Thou was ever noble, and did treat others better than they ever treated you, making of my own delinquent self no exception to the rule of thy soft-heartedness. Yet in this instance thou shalt be repaid 1,000-fold by a reward of which thou can not even dream until thou dost learn a little further of what is in store. But now I will depart, and will send for thee at the appointed hour, when I shall have made all the essential preparations for our journey, and until then, farewell." This is the end of the second part of the Circuitous Journey.